I'm trying to extract the video from the Facebook Live that was also going on that my friend was taking, because I didn't get any like recorded footage of the actual like announcement, but I got first runner-up. I got second place. So I will not be going to the World Food Championship 2023, but I still think that it was a pretty good outcome for my first venture back into the professional world in years, like in the formal professional. I've been doing a lot of private catering, but I guess the public professional world. I had one judge who was very enthusiastic about it. Another judge told me that it was like by a hair. You know, it was frustrating a little bit. Like, I'm just happy to have gotten to compete. I'm happy that I did well. But I have to say, I think I might have actually, like, if it really was by a hair, I probably would have won if they hadn't changed the timing of it all of a sudden. Because they told us, like, I have it in writing and everything. I went back and, like, double checked, like, did I get something wrong? But, like, everyone else was confused too. So, no. Because they said, come with all of your components ready, and then you'll be plating. But you'll have 2 hours for the plating portion. Because it was like the contest itself is to train the judges for the 2022 World Food Championship. So they were like, we're going to be doing like the training class while y'all are prepping, and then the judges will practice by judging this competition. So they were like, so you'll have 2 hours to prep and plate, but there's only going to be like one tiny little oven and no refrigeration, so just kind of like everything other than a table you need to bring yourself. So I brought everything and, you know, prepared everything yesterday, and so it started at 2. Everybody kind of started, excuse me. Two of the other contestants had very, very, very simple plating. And so they finished plating it in like 5 minutes because there was no refrigeration. So they were like, we might as well just put all of our components on the plate. I was like planning on having warm peaches and cold whipped cream. So I had ice under the whipped cream, and then I put the peaches in the oven. And I was planning on, because there was only one little oven, and I knew that somebody else had talked about warming up their cinnamon rolly type thing. I figured, okay, I'm going to get my peaches like hot, because I need them warm. So I was like, I'm going to get them hot, put them in the little bitty oven to get them hot early, and pull them out so that if somebody else needs to warm their stuff, they'll have time, and I won't be hogging it at the end. So I put it in early, just thinking I'm just going to like let it sit in there for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes even, and just get good and hot, and then I can take it out and they can cool down a little bit to warm while the other people are using the oven. And what ended up happening was, while they were in the oven, so we're at like the 30-minute mark at that point of the supposed 2 hours, I hear the lady talking about, so we're going to just go ahead and get started pretty quick here. And everyone was like, wait, what? And luckily, there were 2 contestants that just had such simple dishes that theirs were already plated. Although I think if everybody wasn't ready yet, they would have just waited for us to be ready, because they did randomly decide to just present early. But like, we're talking, and when I say they, like, it was like the person who like founded the competition. Like, she's like the I don't know what you call that person. You know what I mean. Anyway, like it's like her baby, and so I am like hustling to get everything, because I was just sitting there waiting, because I didn't want my queen amelle to like dry out at all. So like you know, I mean, it's like pure butter. They probably would have been fine, but I was like, I'm not in a hurry. So I was like, I'll just wait to put them on the plate until it's time. So my entire prep from beginning to end ended up being 10 minutes. I like checked later, which was enough time for me to be the fourth one to present. And I will say, the last one to present also had a component that was like last minute, like I did. Because like if you put warm peaches on anything and then you put cool whipped cream on top, you have to serve it instantly. Otherwise your whipped cream is going to turn to liquid and your peaches are going to get cold. And especially if you have a candied pecan as your crunch element and you're going to put it on top of whipped cream, you have like 2 minutes to serve that thing before your pecan becomes mushy or not, like, I don't know the words. I'm tired. I have not slept enough. You have like a few minutes before the candy coating on your pecan gets wet and isn't crunchy anymore. And so that was why I waited so long, because I was like, I really have to plate this like at the very last minute with the warm peaches, the cold cream, and then the crunchy pecan. And that's part of what makes that kind of dessert so great, is that there's these contrasting elements, and then it also is a show of technique, because you can't just randomly do that. You really have to, it's a plated dessert for a reason. You have to have all those components done professionally, like right at the last minute. Otherwise you end up with, wet pecans and melted cream and cold peaches. So anyway, I'm just a little irked because I looked back at the footage because I was really confused, because I kept asking my friend who was there with me what time it was, just so I could kind of keep track of like when I needed to start each component. And so she announced that they were going to start the like presenting after 41 minutes, and we were told we had 2 hours. So I got it all plated in 10 minutes. But plating is like presentation is 1/3 of the score. And I didn't have time to adequately like place my sauce. So I ended up drizzling it, and it looked not as good as it would have looked if I'd had time. Because honestly, the way my sauce was kind of coming out, I may have opted not to put it on the plate at all, like the platter at all, because it was not as thick as I wanted it to be for like the kinds of ideas that I originally was going to brush it on, but I changed my mind like 6 times about how I was going to like plate it. And at the end of the day, if I'd had 2 hours, like sure, I had a lot of downtime. I could have totally done, if I'd known, okay, you have 45 minutes to get this thing plated. If they told me I had 20 minutes to get this thing plated, I would have been able to do so, but I would have been more prepared with like, I kind of was like, I'm going to have 2 hours to kind of like fiddle and like figure out what looks best. And I probably would have just cleaned the mirror and removed all the spots, because it just, instead of looking like a drizzle, it just looked messy. And since apparently I won by like a hair, like a fraction of a point, that actually might have been the difference between winning and losing, and like getting to go to the World Food Championship and not. But I'm not like upset about it. Like I'm a little frustrated just because I'm curious if I'd been better prepared for the amount of time that we ultimately were given, or if I had the amount of time that they told us we would have. I wonder if I would have won. But I also think, like, I don't know if it was a God thing or just like good luck or whatever, but the person who won is like a private, like, or not a private, she's like an independent catering. Like she owns her little business and it's pretty small still. And this is going to just be such a boost for her business. And I'm not currently representing a formal business the way that she is. And so I'm kind of pleased for her, because it's going to make more impact on her immediately. I could have used the accolades in the future for sure, but ultimately, like, it was mostly just, the whole experiment was kind of to see if I'm ready to go, like if I'm really wanting to go back into the culinary world professionally. And it's, I mean, you're probably, if you follow me, you're gonna walk with me in the, like, how do I balance the fact that I really have two careers that I love and I'm passionate about, and then on top of that, I'm a very family-oriented person with a spouse who really wants to homeschool, and I've got two kids, and I might want more. And, like, how do I balance one career, much less two, with that? So we'll see what the adventure is. But I will say that the verdict today was, it was really fun. I actually posted a picture of my chef's coat when I pulled it out last night. I hadn't worn it in 10 years. Other than, like, for specific occasions where I was, like, delivering something. But generally speaking, even then, when I'm privately catering, I just wear an apron. Because it's a little pretentious to wear your whites unless you're doing, like, a really, really fancy event. And it's easier just to kind of, like, move around in an apron and a t-shirt. But I hadn't worn it in, like, 10 years. And I was looking at it, and I was just like, I had this feeling, because I was like, how is it going to feel to put this on? Is it going to be anxiety and, like, a flood of, like, memories of why I stepped away for so long? Or is it going to be joy? Like, is it going to be like, like, I forgot about this, I missed this, whatever. And I was really curious, like, am I going to feel anxious when I put this coat on? Because it just represents so much. And it didn't actually, like, I tried it on for fit, but I didn't actually put the coat on, like, and when I did try it on for fit, I had some nerves just about the contest anyway, because it hadn't happened yet. But when I tried it on for fit, so when I put it on, like, officially, it was like I slipped into, like, all these details of being a chef, of what's expected of me, of protocol and procedure, and just sort of, like, the rhythm and the little things. Like, I hadn't thought in years about the fact that you bring your own tools to work when you're a chef. Because I've been catering from either from home or from, like, a very familiar kitchen that's, like, well stocked, I'll put it that way, where I didn't have to bring my own stuff necessarily. Because that kitchen that I was baking in yesterday, that's the kitchen that I usually cook industrially in, and it is a fully stocked kitchen. It has kind of crappy knives, but it has knives, like, you know. And as a pastry chef, it's usually not so much the knives that I'm as concerned with as, like, the spatula quality and stuff like that. And because it's a church kitchen, I have donated most of those materials, so it's basically my second kitchen. I volunteer there. I bake there for the church, and then I also am one of the 2 certified kitchen managers. So, like, anytime they have an event and they need somebody, like, if anybody that needs to use the kitchen, I am one of the 2 people that is, like, legally obligated to be present to make sure serve safe practices are being observed and stuff like that. And so it's kind of my second kitchen, because I'm allowed to use it for free in exchange for my availability, like, as a kitchen manager. So anyway, so it's just, like, little things like that. You kind of get out of the habit when you're just sort of, like, self-employed and, like, privately catering or whatever. But when you're in a more professional, like, public environment, like, and you put that chef coat on, I was like, oh yeah, like, I need to have a bag of my tools to bring with me. And, like, I don't know, it was just, like, odd. It was, but it was, I don't know what the comparison would be. But it was kind of like an instant, it was a little like time travel. It was an instant becoming reacquainted with me 10 years ago. And a lot has happened since then. I've gotten married. I've gotten a master's degree. I've published a book. I've had 2 babies. I've dealt with 5 years of infertility. I've been through depression and coming out of depression, and you know, I've I've grown a lot, and I don't think that you're aware of how much you're growing sometimes. But like something about revisiting this today was really cool. It was really healing in a lot of ways too. Walking in, all the competitors were female chefs, which is more common in pastry. Overall, like savory chefs is substantially more likely to be male, but in pastry, it's more of a female-dominated arena. But to be honest, my history, like working with female chefs, has not always been positive. It's I've had some in my personal experience, I'm not painting with a broad brush, but in my personal experience professionally, 90% of the female chefs that I worked with were incredibly cutthroat. They were not particularly interested in friendship. They were certainly not, like, there wasn't that much of a camaraderie. And there may have been some personality clashes that contributed to that, because, like, I'll get into it in future vlogs. But my personal choice to be sober has made it harder for me to connect in the culinary world with my coworkers, because they like to go out to bars and stuff like that, and they would never think to invite me, even though I absolutely will go to a bar and hang out with my friends and just order a soda or whatever, or not a soda anymore, I guess, but you know, like I've never had any trouble hanging out with people who are drinking. I enjoy the bar atmosphere, and but I think it was more like what that represented, what that choice represented. But I'll get into that a lot more, like, someday, if you care to hear about it. But anyway, but being in this environment, 10 years older and wiser and more experienced and more confident in who I am, and not needing the approval of anybody else. And frankly, in a weird way, I hope this doesn't sound like, it's so funny, because anytime anyone ever, like, refers to themselves as, like, humble in any way, they sound just ridiculous. But, like, I do feel like having a little bit of a humility of not really feeling strongly about the competition. Like, I was like, I would like to do this, it would be cool, but I wasn't like it was a lower stakes competition. It wasn't for money. So I think that everyone was a little more likely to slip into that more Great British Bake Off vibes than, like, Top Chef or Chopped vibes. And so you didn't, like, you're already kind of in a better arena. And then I realized when I was there, and we had all that downtime initially, because we thought that we had 2 hours and everybody was just mulling around, I was like, hey, I'm not the youngest one here anymore. I can set the tone. And so I went around and, like, introduced myself and asked them, like, oh, what did you make? Like, you know, what's your bakery? Like, who are you with? And they all, like, initially they seemed kind of surprised, but they, like, immediately, like, looked kind of relieved and warmed up. And I think because they realized, like, oh yeah, like, we can talk about our dish because everybody's already got their components. It's not like there's sabotage to be had here. And, like, yeah, why don't we support each other? We're all small business owners and, like, local chefs, and we all kind of know the same struggle. And it just kind of, it was cool though, because I really feel like I got to set the tone for how women in the business are going to treat each other, like, in that moment, like, in that specific scenario. I don't think it, like, changed the world or anything, but I think that it really, like, made it a much more pleasant experience for everyone, because by the end of it, people were, like, being so friendly with each other and congratulating each other, and, like, just giving everybody tastes of each other's dishes, and it went from a very, like, oh, we're not supposed to be friends kind of thing to, like, why not, you know? And I feel like I got to be the one that sort of set that tone, and it made me realize that, like, maybe it's with all the extra experience I've gotten in the last 10 years, maybe it's just being older, whatever, I can change not only my own experience of the culinary career, but people coming into it and other people around me, and I have more power. I feel much more empowered than I have ever felt in terms of the company that is a culinary career, like the people that I'm around. And it was really cool. So I felt like sharing that. And I feel like I made some friends today, which is also kind of cool. Because I love to support local businesses, and this city is huge. Like, this metroplex is huge. Like, I don't know that there really is, like, competition. It's not like we're gas stations across the street from each other. You know, if somebody's awesome at cinnamon rolls and somebody else is awesome at biscuits and someone else is awesome at pie, I don't think they're necessarily competition, because if somebody's in the mood for a biscuit, they're going to go get a biscuit. They're not going to go get a cinnamon roll. And I think that some of those perceptions, especially in the culinary world, are manufactured by like a defensiveness. So this is going to be kind of a long vlog, so I'm going to stop here. But I had a great time today, and I got second place. And that was kind of great, because now I don't have to worry about the World Food Championships in a year. And I can still feel good about what I did. And, and the winner was the creme brulee pie. It was like a cinnamon custard pie that she then creme bruleed. And it was fantastic. And she was so sweet, though, because like we were all giving each other tastes and stuff, and she came up to me and she was like, I just tried your dish and I don't know how I won. That was the best thing I've ever put in my mouth. And that was just so sweet. And hers was fabulous. I actually felt really bad, though, because fifth place was one of my favorites. Like, I would have expected, like, if I did not make the top two, that they would have been above me. And they got fifth place, and I think it was because they had a Mexican chocolate crust on their mousse pie. And it was not very cinnamon forefront. And I do think that it was delicious. But if you told me, like, hey, what's the theme that this dessert is supposed to highlight, I would have said chocolate, because it tasted more chocolatey. Like, the cinnamon was like enhancing the chocolate, but it was chocolate forward, not cinnamon forward. And for a cinnamon challenge, like, one of the things about challenges that have something like a theme is that the first thing they judge is, does this represent the, like did they understand the assignment? Did this represent the theme of the challenge? And so they're gonna, like, immediately just rank them on, like, you know, is this a cinnamon dessert, or is this a dessert that has some cinnamon? And if that was sort of their first criteria, then that I think that had to have been how that mousse pie got in the fifth place, because it was delicious. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop. My phone's telling me to stop because its battery's low. But yeah, so that is my download post contest. I'll probably bring it up again in the future, but like that's most of all that you really need to know about it. So I'm gonna go to bed.